Okay, so we're recording now. Now, the webinars that I came from before were extremely formal, and so what I want to do, because we're trying to make Evolve Ministry more like a family-oriented situation, community. And so this particular one, and there are going to be straight-up discussions where I'm going to address specific topics and issues. But on this one today, we're all going to get to know each other and just kind of talk about things that have been going on. Now, in terms of ego, this particular week, we had two people come in. One of them was Joel Jacobson. He came in to train, and then we had another person come in. They will just remain nameless. But one person was able basically to survive the training out, and one person couldn't. And one of the things that was going on is this person had a very hard time letting go of the way that they were accustomed to doing things. And from what we saw, the person had a very, very, very difficult time connecting. He was more of a negatively polarized person, and he was trying to connect into a positive environment. And so we, of course, filmed all week, and we've got like footage where, of course, they were able to connect in. Everyone was having a good time, but this one person, they literally, with their style and way of doing things, they couldn't break through. And so they were having an extremely difficult time there. There was also other things going on in their life. But what we saw was this person had a complete inability to connect because he was basically banging heads with his own ego the entire time. And he had this idea in his mind as well that he was going to come here and teach us. He actually thought he was going to become a teacher for Evolved Ministry. And things didn't work out so well for him because, of course, he wasn't able to perform. We tried our best to work with him, but every time we would get exercise going, he would go off and do his own thing. So he never actually sat in the exercises, and we never saw any progression. And it drove him absolutely insane that he was not able to connect in or get results when he claimed that he'd been able to get really good results before, but he just could not plug in. He could not connect. And like I said, he never tried our method. He would only try his own method. And so then we also did the physical training, and physical training usually, that will let you know like what your system can handle and what it cannot handle. And we were watching breakdowns happen as a result of that as well. I truly believe actually that the physical training was by and large the thing that broke him down the most while we were trying to work with him. And we did a whole lot of counseling with this guy as well. But we saw right there in action, like I've got a videotape, it's amazing actually, where Joel is over off to the side, and he's working with the windmill, and he's in a very harmonious state. It can be seen, there's a big smile on his face, he's cheesing, just like he is now. He's just having a good time, and you can see that this flow is just emanating right off of him. But right behind Joel, literally probably about 15, 20 feet away, is the other guy. And he had this particular method of which, I guess he had this hard method of striking at the air and the ground, and it was very violent looking. It was very negative looking. And part of that, I guarantee him doing that was partially the frustration of him not being able to connect in, because he was doing it in this particular manner. And so we have right behind Joel, where Joel is blasting this windmill and bringing it over and almost getting it to the ground. Actually, he does get the flag to touch the ground. It hits the ground. Right next and behind him is a dude that's not getting any movement from the environment whatsoever. And the only movement that's coming through is being made by Joel's more harmonious movements. And these were the things that we were trying to explain to him, that if you are in an environment which is positive and everything is positively polarized, that you're not going to be able to empower yourself in a negative manner in that environment and get the results that you want. And so these were the things that he had a very hard time with. I will go ahead now and shift it to Joel. Joel, you'll have to unmute yourself because you had this experience as well, and then go ahead and give them your version of what you thought was going on, because this, of course, is an ego thing.
Is that better? Let me turn this on. Yeah. Yeah, so I came here, and the same day I came here, our fellow student also came, and it was pretty much an interesting interaction with him. He did show a lot of struggle mentally and physically. He did go on a fast for 4 days, which definitely kickstarted all his system to detoxify. And when the system is trying to detoxify, it's going to detoxify the ego too. He had his breakthroughs, but it took a while. And what Michael was describing, this whole situation where I was harmonious, loving, and very connecting with flow and movement of the arms and wrists, he was jabbing, kind of trying to get the system to work for him rather than have it cooperate with him. And that's something that I've witnessed very much this week from this individual. And you can definitely learn a lot from this interaction with somebody who is negatively polarized. And Michael was very good at explaining the whole situation of how when you have somebody in a negative polarity is in a positive polarity, his methods are not going to work as well. And I'm glad I got to see this. It does remind me a lot of what I see also in city life. I live in San Francisco, and in San Francisco you see a lot of people trying to get their way, and things don't work for them because when you are not in the best interest of the system, of the universe, in a loving state, it won't work for you. You wouldn't get that lottery ticket to win because all you're thinking about is how you are going to make your life better more than others, and it doesn't benefit everything. And yeah, I think that was pretty much what I wanted to say.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Even just hearing it from Joel's perspective there, it gives you kind of a clue as to what we were dealing with because, like I said, we saw several breakdowns. So these weren't just like physical breakdowns when we went and we did the physical work, but we saw a lot of mental breakdowns too, where the person completely broke down into full-fledged either throwing fits or crying. And we did our best to counsel and to work with him. We were definitely very positive, but we were also extremely direct in our approach and how we were trying to talk with him because, of course, this is a full-grown adult male, so there's no way to really pad the way you say things. You have to be more direct in your approach because otherwise they get other ideas in their mind of what may be occurring. And I found it very interesting that he was willing to pay me. He ended up paying me money because he thought he was going to come out to teach me. And so the thing that I had to explain to him was, well, as a student, if I were your student, I would be more inclined to be your student if I saw results from you immediately. And his excuse, what he told us, the reason why things didn't work was, he said, my methods don't work all the way up until the point where they do work. And I had to tell him literally, I said, well, honestly, that makes no sense. I said, if I were to try to run a school that way, I said, essentially, if I had students come out from, other parts of the world or other places, and if I were to tell them, if I wasn't able to give them results right off the bat, if I were to tell them, hey, this is how my stuff works. It doesn't work all the way up until the point where it does work. I probably wouldn't keep a student base for very long. So, those were the things that I try to, explain to him. I said, if you did come to teach me that the most important thing is results right off the bat. And so, and I said, unfortunately, we've not seen results. I said, I don't believe that you've learned much here because you've spent most of the time trying to impress us. And that was the biggest aspect of all this. He spent a good deal of time trying to impress us, and he really wanted to show us what he was capable of, but his connection was failing him. And so then he would see, all of us getting these interactions and these connections, and he was able to do so himself. But it was only because of the polarity. Again, I specifically told him this. I said, where you came from before, you were in negative situations. And I said, even the way that you're handling trying to connect to the system is a very violent, negative way of doing things. And I said, unfortunately, that doesn't have any power in the positive system. I said, so it makes it very difficult. And that was the thing that broke him down on multiple occasions. Like I said, it was very disheartening to see that, but it was also one of the best lessons. And I'm going to be providing it soon as a video lesson. Like I said, I filmed the whole thing, and I think it'll serve quite well for you guys to see exactly the difference between the negative polarity and the positive polarity, and the type of results that one will get versus the other when they're side by side, if that makes sense to you guys. So Daniel also got to experience this for the entire week, essentially. It's in Daniel's home, and so he got to see Andrew even a bit more than I did, and I would like Daniel to go ahead and step up and give his account of things and be very detailed. Daniel, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and let you go.
All right. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting having him here. He told me some things when he came here that showed me that he was already of a negative polarity and that we had to work with him. And he told me a lot of things which I didn't know if they were true. They didn't sound true based on my experiences on my own, and then learning with Michael here. Things just they didn't seem true at all. And so I started to notice these behavior patterns, and like Joel said, he fasted. He was trying to gain energy by fasting, by focusing energy and like an energy ball, focusing energy there, because previously these techniques would give him days of energy. Well, they exhausted him. And so, I asked him questions the first couple of days so I can get to know his mind is, what all this stuff is that he's talking about, because a lot of it did not make sense. And he was also taking Oxycontin and taking drugs, I guess to cope with what he was feeling, but he was trying to gain energy this way. And what we do is, food gives us energy, sleep gives us energy, breathing practices gives us energy, working with, the air, doing aerokinesis, the techniques that we teach at Evolve Ministry, that gives us energy. And everything that he was doing was exerting energy. And so it was basically, all right. So basically, like, he was very, very resistant, as it's been said, to what we teach. And one of the things that I noticed with him was he was almost trying to tell us what to do, which that's one of the, I guess, symptoms of the egoic mind, is you want to control every situation. You want to control the environment. You want to control other people. What we do, like some people say, we control the wind or we control the water, but it's not. We're harmonizing with it. That's why we buzz. We set a tone that everything can harmonize with, that we can harmonize with. And I noticed, because we did some meditation in my home where Joel and I were buzzing. He had trouble buzzing. Joel and I are sitting there, peaceful, blissful, feeling great. He's moving around. He's shifting. He's taking off his coat. He's laying down. He's looking at his phone. Like, he's moving, which shows he's not adjusting and that he's agitated, which when you buzz or you meditate, you're putting out that positive energy into your environment. And if there's something in your environment that is not accepting of that positivity or accepting of that vibration, it will be grating to their system. And that's basically, like, I saw that from the moment I saw him in the airport. He looked paranoid. He was looking around. I asked him questions about why he was coming to us, and he was talking very softly, which I understand. If you've experienced interesting things, you don't want to talk about it in public because people might think you're crazy. But something that I do want to say is he had mentioned he had signed a contract and then he got abilities. When you sign a contract, it means something is taking from you for what you get.
Does that lose your value?
Yes, exactly. You lose your value. And so like with musicians, they sign their soul over to become rich and famous. Abilities, like we teach, is a side effect. And the true thing that we want everyone to come out of is a better connection, a better understanding of themselves, a better understanding of the nature of this reality that we live in. But also, we want them to try the techniques, see how they work. But like but if you're too negative and you're not trying, like you're going to have that negative effect. So he was purging. He wasn't sleeping much. He wasn't eating much. He was doing all these things that like he thought were giving him energy, but in return it was like almost not exaggerating, but intensifying the experience he was having. Whereas Joel here, he's my soul brother. And so, he's been having a great time, great experiences. I've learned from him, and it's an exchange. And with this other individual, like it was great to have him here. Like he's still a soul brother as well, and I hope that he takes what we have taught him, because I know he's taken gems. We've planted seeds that if he takes them and he does things correctly, he will blossom, he will flower, he will change his life and get things in order. And so, sometimes going through these things, like, we've all gone through some of these experiences that really tax us. They really teach us about what ego is, what love is, what the decisions that we make are, and how they not only affect our lives, but how they affect other people's lives. And so I'm glad that I had the experience with that, to see like both polarities. Like, Joel here is super positive, I'm pretty positive, and then to have a pretty negative person who looks positive, but you can feel that he's not as positive or not positive at all. He's kind of wearing a mask a lot. But yeah, so I'm hoping that he does take some of this with him, and hopefully sometime in the future, we see that positive side of him. But so that was my experience with him.
I'd like to share a little bit more. In my opinion, everybody's going through some form of healing, stage of healing. And in the stage of healing, you get to experience your suffering, and experience that this has to do a lot with what you've been brought up with, and a certain cycle has to do with it. And then you're reenacting this stored energy inside of your body that has to reenact itself so it can discharge itself properly from your nervous system. And when you fast like that, you are actually very much accelerating your detoxification of your body. Mm-hmm. And that also arouses a lot of that energy to express itself. And what it does, we heard from this gentleman stories that he would reiterate. He would tell us the same stories sometimes about things that are very negative happening or happened in his life. And that was disconcerting, but it is a very great way for any evolved ministry practitioner to really take to heart and really learn how everyone is in a stage of healing. And in the stage of healing, a person could be suffering, or a person could be stuck in a perspective. And when a person learns that he's stuck in a perspective, they can get out of the perspective, kind of start incorporating more of that surrender to not having so much control. Finding the balance between effort and surrender is what I do. I like learning. I like to give myself to the experience, but I like to also participate, be part of the experience.
Hey, Daniel? Joel? Guys. Hello? Hello?
Because you're using my mic.
Okay, let me try. Okay,
Got
I have
it?
no idea where I was stopped, but I'm just going to say that this is an experience that we all find ourselves through ourselves, where we evolve ourselves and mature. But most of all, we get to see that in others later. And when we see that in others, we, as practitioners, we can help encourage others to think and evolve past the perspective that is holding them in a box, confined, and help them exceed that limitations. And so it's pretty much a stage of healing that people are going through, and it's an ego stage. Once a person heals enough, goes through enough healing, I mean, he has to go now home and deal with his life and get a job and get himself acclaimed and secure before he can actually continue working with energy on the level that we are doing. I mean, he can take some of the stuff that he learned here, but it's not going to serve him well if his whole world is crumbling beneath him. He needs to have a base, a sort of platform to work from. So this is a healing stage. I encourage people to look at it as a healing stage. Everybody can heal past it and get to the point where they're embracing more of their brotherhood, more of the love of the community, and to share and be in that vibration where you're not forcing your environment, but more cooperating with it. That is all.
Well done, Joel. Right now, I was trying to figure out how to unmute Ken, but I've got this set up to where all attendees can unmute themselves. It may be because he's on a phone. I'm not for sure. So, other than that, I don't see anywhere where I can do that for him. So, Pac-Man, is your microphone working? No? All right, Elijah. It's okay, Pac-Man. It's okay. Elijah, go ahead and introduce yourself and just introduce some of the struggles that you may or may not have had with the ego.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going well.
Awesome. Eli, or Elijah, I'm 21 years old. I live in California, and I'm kind of new to this energy thing. I had experiences earlier on that was like energy stuff, like cloud bursting and cooperating with and stuff. I wasn't entirely aware that I was doing it or making it happen. Like, I didn't have any training, or no one told me like, oh, if you do this, you're going to get this result. Like something like, I just thought like, oh, it'd be cool to like, you know, mess with the clouds or something. And it just ended up working. The problem was I wasn't exactly, I hadn't worked on my ego at all. And so I kind of elevated myself for a little bit because none of my friends at the time knew about any of this stuff. I didn't feel comfortable speaking with anybody about it because it just didn't seem entirely possible at the time. It just didn't seem possible. And so now with the school and, you know, all the ego training and the community, I'm able to see like, you know, I'm able to have a better perspective when it comes to doing these things, and a better way to handle and conduct yourself when just viewing yourself as a person and how you interact with others, and just realizing you're not the only person on this journey, and you're not the only you're not alone basically in doing these things, and you're not crazy and all this stuff. Other things with ego I've noticed, I live in the city too, like Joel. It's not San Francisco, it's Sonoma County. It's about an hour north. It's a small town. It's Sebastopol, so like maybe like 10,000, 15,000 people. Most of the people here are pretty cool, I would say, pretty down to earth. Every once in a while, there's people with big egos, and it's just, I feel like it comes from that separation thing in the capitalism and the need we're sold to at birth, basically, to beat everybody and make the most money, and just that's glorified as doing better than anybody, even your own friends, even if that means you're stabbing someone in the back that you've known your whole life and stuff like that. And it's ridiculous. And I feel like even if you go that route, you may seem happy, you may be looked up to, but are you happy on the inside? Can you trust anybody at that point? It just doesn't really seem like it's worth it. And I feel like a lot of these people who, maybe sell their soul or not sell their soul or whatever, and get all this material stuff and get all this prestige, it's filling their ego, which is only temporary. You only have it for this life. And it's not necessarily worth it. And if you want to bring karma into it, I mean, how much karma is it going to take to accumulate the whole world in material possessions? Like, I mean, that's going to be a lot of karma you're going to have to deal with eventually, maybe in this life, maybe in the next life, whatever. But anyways, more back to me, and my experience with ego, tying into what I was saying earlier. A lot of my friends are on that route, like on that material route, like, oh, who has this, who has that, or, oh, I made this amount of money this month, or, oh, I got this job, or I just got this new car. And it's all to present this image. It's all to project how you look to other people and to have other people look up to you. So I feel like society kind of plays into that part and kind of feels it. It's like, there's the machine, as Michael talks about it, and then the machine of that kind of fuels the Western world. And for the future, I would say the rest of the world is kind of catching on to this thing, this capitalism, this greed, this ego-based lifestyle, and it's not really encouraging spiritual growth. Like, some people, they look at spirituality and stuff, and they say, oh, okay, well, spirituality, well, are you Catholic, Buddhist, Jewish, Hindu? They take spirituality at face value, at what they're presented with. They don't really look for it within themselves, or like, I mean, if you're going to go that route, I would suggest studying all the religions and seeing how they kind of fit together, and how that works. But there's just this whole aspect of reality that isn't being taught and isn't really acknowledged by most of the people on this planet. And I feel like a lot of it is due to just the way things are set up. So, yeah. I'm going to unmute for a second. I can talk more if you guys have questions or just want to know more. So, thank you.
Okay, well, it's pretty much up to whatever you want to say at this particular point, and what you want to add. Me personally, I'm going to throw in some personal caveats here. What really got me working on the ego so incredibly much, it was one thing that I realized, especially right in my 30s when I got accelerated, and the acceleration came, as most everyone has heard by now, by the UFO. But I really started looking at myself through some of the training that I was being given through various routes, we'll just say, that there was a lot internally wrong with me, and a lot of stuff that I had not resolved, a lot of stuff that I did not try to look back upon in my life to make the necessary improvements. And so here I was, a 30-year-old man, 31-year-old man who hadn't actually looked upon his life and made any sort of real corrections or necessary changes that would take me actually from still being a 30-year-old teenager, basically, to a full-grown adult male. Okay, because how we are as adults, what determines our adulthood is how we rise from grace out of situations. And if we are not wise enough to step and learn from these mistakes, you constantly go into these cycles, and every single time you run into the same thing. And I was trying to figure out, why do all these violent actions keep happening to me? Okay, why can I have a girlfriend for X amount of time, but then, it fails inevitably every time? Why hadn't I gotten the right job yet? Or why hadn't I fulfilled all the things and roles in my life that I had looked at? Because there's nothing worse than you're at the end of your life and you look back and go, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I just go and do it while I had the time and the chance and the opportunity? Instead, I was letting a lot of things waste away, and I wasn't looking inside of myself to find the necessary answers to evolve myself. And so I had to look deep. I had to look at what made me. I had to look at not only my family situations, my psychological situations of how I viewed what was going on with my family, then how I was being shaped in school, how society had worked to develop me a certain way, how church had developed me a certain way, and that all these things went into a cohesive situation that made me into one thing that I ended up rejecting so much later that I never resolved the issues that came from behind it. Because at that point, I just one day just said, okay, I reject all that. It means nothing to me anymore. And in some ways, that's good to do, but it doesn't take care of all the emotional stuff that has been built up inside that you were rejecting in the first place. And so instead of looking at those little details, I just kind of moved along, and I would find myself wrapped up in the same cycle. Okay. A year would go by, I would experience like a fight or something. Another year would go by, someone would try to hurt me. Another year would go by. And these were all things that I had done when I was younger. So like I had said before, those who have like looked up some of my videos, I stated clearly that I used to be extremely violent. Okay. In my 20s, I was extremely negative. I had honed myself towards negativity. I had honed myself as a boxer, kickboxer, cage fighter, and all that stuff. And I still actually work out and do those sort of things, but obviously I don't engage in any of the fighting or the negativity anymore. I just do it enough to do energy and stuff like that, mostly circular motion. Well, when I was younger, though, I looked for every single excuse to get myself into situations, to make myself look like the good guy. So, I'd get myself in, I had a job for about 5 years as a bar bouncer. Well, as a bar bouncer, that puts me in any negative situation that I want to be put in, and it allows me to act like I'm solving that situation. Okay? And in one aspect, there were a lot of lessons that got taught there. And in another aspect, I wasn't looking at the reason why I was doing that in the first place. So that forces me to rewind. See, these are the things that people don't do. To look at a singular situation and go, wow, that was crazy. It escalated quick. That was a big fight, but now it's over. The weird thing was this same dude was in a fight last week. He was in a fight the week before. He was in a fight the week before. Nothing ever gets resolved. By the next week, he's in another fight, right? So then you have to look at yourself and go, I keep getting into all these. I'm solving situations of violence with violence. What's wrong with me? Okay, so I had to start looking back and go, where did the violence begin? Oh, well, obviously it began when I felt like I was powerless when I was in school. When I felt like I was powerless while I was in church. While I felt like I was powerless when I was at home. Okay? And that I had built up so much pent-up aggression that I created a new cycle, okay? The first cycle was submission. Always backing down, always backing down, always backing away. The second cycle, to get out of submission, was to lash out. So next thing you know, I'm lashing out, I'm lashing out, I'm lashing out. Another cycle. So then I have to look at that one day and go, you know what? My karma has compounded itself, and the reason why these things are continuing to happen is because of unresolved issues within my own self. It's not the people who were attacking me. It's not the people who were in the bar who got drunk and were attacking each other before I decided that I had to jump in and be the savior. Okay? And of course, it made me look good for a while. A lot of people thought that was cool. Okay, I got a big, cool reputation as a big, tough guy. And then later on in life, you have people come up to you when you've left all that behind, and they still come up to you and you're going, do you remember that dude that you took and you slammed up against the wall and then you did this and did that? And hearing it come back to your ears years later when that's no longer a part of you is a reminder that's what I never want to be again. Okay, and so these things that I had developed for myself, including the reputation, would haunt me years later because I did not resolve those things. So these are the things that we have, all of these emotions which guide us. And we have all these instances in our life which test us and create the emotions. How we rise from these emotions, how we arise from the situations is what dictates the amount of grace that we will have when we come out of those situations, how much knowledge we will ascertain from them. And then once you have figured out that pattern, make sure the pattern never arises again. You have to make the necessary changes and look and see. If that pattern keeps arising, there's only one reason why it could keep arising. It's because something that you have not fixed. So these are the very things that I feel that is really necessary, because as an energy practitioner, as we saw this week, if you do not get rid of these unresolved issues, if they lay dormant inside of you, number one, they can boil up and then show later. Number two, they will block your access and how you're trying to achieve things, unless, of course, you're trying to achieve things on a negative level. If you've made that choice, the thing is that will, consume you pretty quick, as we saw this week. We had a guy that was very self-centered and a person who was taking some pretty massive drugs but didn't have the need to take those drugs, okay? There was nothing wrong with his physical system where he needed drugs that were of that nature. And so you got all those things that are going in and clogging the mind, and into a mind that was already clogged to begin with from a bunch of egoic tendencies. And these are the things that ended up limiting his access. And it was evident all week. There was not a single point where he got what he wanted out of that system, hence which led to his breakdowns, the fact that he cried often. And so it was a very interesting situation. I wonder what just happened with Elijah. I just saw his screen. Are you all right, Elijah?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. There goes the screen again. That's kind of interesting, though. It's like a strobe effect. So anyway, it was really humbling, actually, to watch it, because I'm telling you what, there is nothing harder than to have to go to a person and then tell them the reasons why they are not getting results. To have to tell the person the reason why, that you can see that the things that are inside them are blocking them. And it was very hard because Daniel and Joel were both there in the room with me when I had to actually have this conversation with him. And so anytime that you have to essentially almost break a person down, it almost feels like you're breaking yourself down while you're doing it. It always brings back to me all of my mistakes. Anytime that I have to work with someone else, I always feel those echoes of my own thing, which makes it much easier for me to counsel them, to be quite honest, because it's a form of empathy that I work with on that level. But at the same time, when you do have to deal with it, and when you are trying to help other people, you can't make it pretty. You have to tell them directly. You can make it loving, and you can make it nice as you can possibly be. But when it comes to the truth, you cannot take away the truth from them. It has to be a direct shot, because then you compromise yourself, and then the same thing happens over again. Okay, so Joel, would you like to say anything else? Daniel, do you have anything you would like to throw in?
Your line is now unmuted.
Yes. Basically, I wanted to just say, like, I think I said this before, experiencing this for me was a good way to see it in my own home, because I've seen it other ways, but in my own home was a whole different thing. Like, I've had other students where we see it, but they can go to their home. And so experiencing it here and having that in my home was like, okay, I need to work through things because it was uncomfortable. So it put me kind of in a challenge and in a pickle because he started asking me for things that I wasn't able or willing to offer. And I know what it's like to be in somewhat of this situation. I've been homeless, I've been broke, I've been jobless, so I understand the fight or flight. Like, I understand that. But when I was homeless, I was not asking people for stuff. I was taking care of myself. I just needed a place to sleep. And so that's something too, is like, I've gone through a lot in my life, and I've experienced a lot. So seeing this guy and having him stay here helped me understand, okay, this is a possible reflection of where I was earlier on in my life. And so what I said to him was that he needs to get his life stable. Like, before we left, I told him to get himself a job, stay at his parents' house because that's where he's going. And I actually told him to stop the energy work until he is stable financially, shelter, emotionally, mentally. And because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to kind of have experiences and not understand it and not be able to, like, talk to people about it. Like, it can drive you crazy. But if you're not stable with home, shelter, food, you're in fight or fight, you're fearful, and you have no clue what the next moment is going to bring. And it will bring negativity because you're in that negative state of mind on a constant basis.
Yeah, you regurgitate it.
Right. And so, like I had posted before, your internal world is represented or reflected on the external world. And so part of what we teach and what we do with the aerokinesis and the abilities is our reflection in our environment is a reflection of our internal harmony. And so once you see that and understand it, you like, you see your insecurities. You need to work through that. You need to see how to do it. Work on maybe like where it first started. Work on that experience. Work on all the experiences that have led you up to this point, and eventually, that issue will not be an issue. And you learn to work through these issues and these problems in a more positive way. You resolve the negativity, you resolve the issues you might have with yourself and with other people, and your world literally changes. And I have experienced that myself. Mike has experienced it. We probably all have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. So we know it's true. We know it is absolutely true that we can change our world if it's negative. And I mean, we essentially are responsible for our lives. There's no God, there's no goddess, there's nothing that will take care of us if we don't take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Even taking care of this individual that was in my house, I tried to take care of him. Me and Joel and Mike tried to take care of him. And a lot of it, he just, he pushed it off. He said, this doesn't work for me. But if you're open, you see what benefits you, what benefits other people. And eventually, you'll get to a place where you see the benefit. You take down the blinders. You take down that other perspective that you want to hold on to, that identity or that paradigm. And once those blinders go down, you can see multiple perspectives, and then you get to see the love, you get to see the positivity, the harmony. You still get to see the negativity, but it becomes a choice. Do I want to be negative, or do I want to be positive? Do I want to be selfish, or do I want to be selfless, where I am a servant? Because I've believed my entire life I am a servant. And it's an honor to be on this webinar with you guys, and honor to have Joel here, that I can serve you guys in this way. And through that perspective, like, I've watched my life get better. I've watched how it's helped people. And it's not about me, because we all, the universe, like, we're all connected. So I'm just a different part of yourself. And if we can all work towards that stewardship, you know, hopefully this individual does take some of this stuff home and he sees, okay, these individuals, they loved me. They treated me well. I need to be an example now. So I think that is all I wanted to say.
I can add a little bit.
Okay, I did want to say that Ken and our friend Carrie are in Michigan listening on their cell phone. And so they wanted to say hello and that they loved you guys and they hope to be able to see you guys. So that is all I have to say, and I'm really glad to as well.
We love you, Carrie and Ken.
All right, so Joel?
Yeah, muted. Put it on myself. So my area of expertise comes from nutrition. I've been investigating nutrition on my own for quite a while, and in this transformation that I went through was really connecting the whole body and mind, and realizing that the body itself responds to whatever you expose it to. Like the law of karma, cause and effect, is exactly what happens on a genetic level of stimulation and expression. Your cell will express itself a certain way. Your organs, which are a multi-cellular community specialized in a certain way, they are expressing themselves in a certain way. They're stimulated day by day by what you expose yourself to. If it is pharmaceutical drugs or any other type of drug like caffeine or acid-forming foods, they dehydrate you. They dehydrate the body, and your body becomes malnourished. And that causes stress on the mind. The body itself communicates to the mind, and the mind communicates to the body. There's a two-way street. I mean, the stimulation expression can also be your mind, and your emotions can control your physical body. And that happens day by day. We're not really trained to hone that down. We could work on that. But mostly what happens is that we expose ourselves to foods, to drinks, to all kinds of stuff, and those trip and trigger our organs, our endocrine system, everything inside our body to react to what we expose it to. And when you ignorantly do consume stuff, it will push the right buttons. It will cause your liver to express the rage that will communicate to you. And because every cell of your body, I mean, you are a super conscious being of trillions of cells. You are the super consciousness of these cells. If you can go down and live a cellular life, then you'll be in the individual cellular life. But you're a multicellular organism, and on that level, you get communication, and you do receive anything that your brain can translate, anything that your cells and your organs are telling you. And in that aspect, when the cells are bathing in an environment that is chemically imbalanced, they will let you know. They will pressure you to change your environment to better them. And we want to clean our air, we want to clean our water, we want to clean our food. And so our cells will have a great clean environment. And when you go on for 4 days of fasting, you can expect literally that your body start detoxification, make full speed, that you will express heightened emotions to come out of that. And so that's why I encourage everybody to find that it does control our biology. Beliefs also control our biology, just like Bruce Lipton said. And his book, Biology of Belief, is very inspirational, and his talks on YouTube too. This just talks about the idea that we are stimulated by our environment all the time. And we can stimulate our environment as well, which is what we're learning at Involved Ministry. So it goes hand by hand. You are part of this environment, and you just have to learn to gauge it not only from this local place, but also gauge it from outside of you. Make sure you get yourself clean stuff, and just things that are clean for your body. and of course, connect to the ground. Walk barefoot or something.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
Barefoot, amazing.
Barefoot, amazing. That's all.
All right, guys. I think we had a pretty successful webinar. The reason why I did that pause there is because I'm hearing my echo again. Someone cancel out their microphones or something. Okay. All right. So this has been an honor. Now we've got everything down to where it seems like it's working great. We're going to start now doing, like I said, at least bi-weekly webinars constantly. And there may also be other times where the other teachers, if they choose to make webinars as well, that they may create some and make some available as well. So there may be Daniel throwing webinars on. There may be Joel throwing on webinars. So just stay tuned and keep aware, because there may be any number of activities going on. And like I said, this is going to be at least done bi-weekly, and we're going to go through all the lessons. And also, there is going to be new curriculum coming on shortly again. I've already got the videos filmed for them. I just have to go through, organize, and really lay them all out. But so a bunch of new stuff is coming, and it's going to be good. And there's also going to be stuff for the masters as well. So stay tuned. I love you guys. Evolved Ministry is starting to do pretty well, decent. And by December, when that documentary comes out, we're going to be rocking and rolling. And there is going to be probably openings for certain types of employment. So stay awake with that one as well, too. Love you all. Evolved Ministry.